All right, let's move on to fundamental number 4, which is vocal acoustics / actually vowels.
Now, I know that you work on this with people for long periods of time. Like, this is one of the things that you are continually working on students for years on.
And we could literally do a YouTube special with like a huge series on just vocal acoustics, because there's so much to it. There's so much to it, guys. But what we want to do is just briefly glaze over the fundamentals of vocal acoustics.
Like, this is the basics.
The basic as it gets, man. Like, this is this is just a brief overview of knowledge of where we want the vowels to be and how important they are in playing into this whole picture of getting the voice balanced and getting things optimized.
And maybe if you guys want more on this, if you leave comments below and just say, hey, please come out with a full series on this, then
we'll do it. Maybe we'll do it.
Maybe we'll do it.
But let's just dig into this just a little bit so that we can start to have an overview and an understanding of what it means to not just shape a vowel, but how it's actually acoustic tuning of the voice. Just like an instrument, there's an acoustical element, acoustic tuning, like the space that we create to make sound. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So this is basically the third element in your singing that you can control. In the last fundamental, we talked about the airflow, and then the muscle are the first two elements of singing of the phonation process that you actually control. The third is your vowels, or like shaping your acoustic chamber, right? So this is really important to understand, because if your vowels are knocked out and they're not in alignment of where we need them, the balance between the air and the muscle is going to be a battle. Once we get this third thing locked in, it's easy peasy.
So what do you mean by like control or adjust your acoustic chamber? What does that even really mean?
That's just knowing how to shape the vowels for optimal usage of the vocal cords. And also to get the sound you actually want too, because the way you shape your acoustic chambers or your mouth and your throat, the way that all comes together and the vowel choices you make in shaping those areas determines what the sound is, the timbre of your voice, and it has a lot to do when we get to the fine tuning of it with the style that you sing. And even if you think about different accents of the way people speak, it's actually just the way they're shaping their mouth and their throat, and that's why people sound different.
Right.
If we all shaped everything the same way, we would all have the same accent.
Sure.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with different genres of music. We're just changing the shape of things in our mouth and our throat to give us the sounds and the colors that we want. But that being said, there is an optimal shape that we want to get to and we're going to talk about today that's just going to get everything balanced.
And is that why when you're hearing people sing songs, right? When you hear popular music, a lot of times you hear them sing a word a certain way and you think, I would never speak that way, right?
Yeah.
People are always like, what? Why would you say it that way? That's not how you actually say it. But there's...
Yeah, like their speaking voice is very different than their singing voice.
Right. But if you're singing a high note, yeah, you're not going to structure it, I guess, the exact same way that you would if you're just at speaking note level.
I think, yeah, there's like a style of music that's really popular right now that illustrates that for us is a kind of an indie pop sound, right? And if you break that down, if you break that sound down, the reason why, and I'm not going to list specific artists, but you can all probably think of different artists that do this sound. Basically, the way they get that sound is they add an E vowel to every single vowel, almost every single vowel. So they make everything a diphthong. They go from it, like if they say great, they go great, right?
So a diphthong, just real quick, right?
A diphthong is the two vowel sounds together.
Right. So you're combining two vowels.
Yeah.
You transition from one into the next. Right?
So an A is actually already a diphthong, A, but then they accent that E, A, great, and you hear that E. And we hear a lot of artists doing that accent in their singing right now, especially in the indie genre. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Whatever floats your boat. However, all that is them changing the structure of their vowels. But when you hear these people talk, they don't say, that's great. Like they don't have this. sound to everything when they speak. That's what you were talking about, right?
Right.
So that is a style choice completely done with a vowel. Crazy, right?
Nice.
So that's kind of a fun illustration. So let's dial this back a little bit
Right.
and talk about what vocal acoustics are and how we actually create vowels.
Sure.
Okay, so guys, kind of go on this little journey with me for a second. We're going to talk about anatomy for just one moment. And again, for all my vocal scientists, we're not going to have exactly correct terminology here because I'm just trying to simplify this enough for singers to understand it, okay?
Yeah, this isn't for you egghead nerds. This is for the singers who are trying to understand what's going on at the base level, so that way we can build off of this.
Because the science, if you read science books on this, it's pretty tricky to understand at first. So we basically have two spaces where the sound resonates, and that's where the sound waves bounce around and create the color of the sound, okay? So we have two chambers. One is your throat and one is your mouth. And most people, when they're thinking about singing, they're just thinking about the shape of the front. They're just thinking from the back of the tongue forward. And I've seen a lot of coaches only focus on shaping the front. And that's okay because that's still valuable. That's not a bad thing. But if you leave the back vowel out, we're in trouble because that back vowel does more stabilizing than you could possibly imagine to get that balance in those vocal cords. And there's definitely a variance between what kind of back vowel you want. And when I say back vowel, we're talking about how we shape the vowel in the back of the throat, okay? I know it's kind of weird to think that you could actually do that, but you absolutely can. And getting optimal sound in the back for the style that you want and also for the balance of your voice. And there's definitely some vowels that are going to destabilize you versus stabilize you. Okay, so consider this. So go ahead and put your hand on your throat again and swallow. There's your voice box. See, it kind of sits just kind of right here in your neck when it's relaxed. When we're talking, it's just right here, okay? It's right there. So when we swallow, the vocal cords actually move up into a swallowing position. This thing called the epiglottis covers it. So that way when you swallow food and drinks, it doesn't go into your vocal cords and your lungs, okay? So that's kind of a fun thing. So that's why that's moving. Anyhow, the little tube that's above your vocal cords and to the base of your tongue, it's just this space back here, is called your pharynx. That's the fancy name for it. So if you look it up in an anatomy book, you're going to see that that's your pharynx. You actually can shape a vowel there depending on how long that tube is. So if your vocal cords drop down, we get a deeper sound in the voice. It's more open because my vocal cords are actually lower and the tube is longer. Or I can push them up into a swallowing position and you can hear that I've now shortened the tube. What we want optimally for balance and for everything to feel comfortable is to have that pharynx nice and long in kind of a talking position. That being said, our classical singers love to have more of an ah in the back. And some of our pop singers or musical theater singers like to raise the larynx a little bit. So we can use that back vowel for color, but I'm just going to say optimally, the in the back is what we want. So think fun. That's in the back and in the front. There's the vowel. So it's understanding that you have these two acoustic chambers. And you notice that when I was making those changes, my front vowel, the way my mouth was shaped, was not changing at all. It was just all purely done with the back, okay? And that's a fine-tuning thing. I don't expect you guys to go and look in the mirror and be able to just do that right out the gate. This is something that you need a series of exercises for over a long period of time to master.
Right, because that's harder to see. It's easier to feel, I'm assuming.
Or hear. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Right? So just go with me on this. When we sing, we want resonator 1, which is that pharynx, resonator 2, to be in alignment and to give us an optimal sound and stabilization, right? And this is just us talking about our again, baking the cake. It's just talking about building a technical foundation, because then once you get that stabilized, we can go in and tweak the sound and give you an indie sound or a rock and roll sound or whatever you're looking for, right? Country, twang, all that kind of thing. So the size and shape of your resonators determines the quality of the sound and the timbre. That also has an element that plays into that is also your anatomy of how you are just built. Like women, we have higher pitched voices, because literally our chambers are a little bit smaller. Like our vocal cords are smaller and then men's, right? So there's that piece of it. There's that element to it. Then there's also the fact that, my neck might be longer than yours, you know? And, or some people have really, really big mouths, and that definitely plays into it. Even the size of your head plays into it. And that's why we get so many cool different sounds from different people. But generally speaking, there is a centered vowel that we want to stick with.
And what is that centered vowel?
The centered vowel is And remember, you guys, the two main jobs of your vocal acoustics is to give you the color and the timbre of the sound you want. And it's also to stabilize everything and make sure that everything's in balance. So it's that third element. So let's move on to Let's walk through some vowels. I'm going to have you guys do some vowels with me so you can start to feel different shapes, okay? So let's just think about your mouth first, because that's, I feel like, the most easy
Probably
thing.
the easiest place
to start, right? So if we're just thinking right here from your jaw forward, or like the back of your tongue forward, we're just going to do a series of vowels, and we're going to go from more open to more closed. Okay?
Okay.
Ah. Then the next one is then o, then ooh. And you can feel how it's very open in the back and it gradually closes down. Ah, o, ooh. And you can feel that movement all the way through it.
So this isn't all the vowels, clearly.
Oh, not at all.
That's essentially the same vowel, just in different
openings. Like it's just a series of an open to closed vowel.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, these vowels are all very similar to each other.
Because I'm like, where's E? But
there's E is a similar transition. So you can try that one too. E. So you're feeling open to closed. And you can hear that the first series that we did was a little bit more rounded and beautiful, and the second series is a little brighter. Cool? We cool with that?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the centered vowel, you're looking for the thing that's going to make you most stable and give you optimal use of your voice. Not saying that all the vowels are bad, guys. We're just saying this is going to give us optimal, right? So the in the first series is what we're looking for. Now you can feel that again. Ah, o, ooh, ow.
So that's when you're talking about a centered vowel. You're kind of in the middle of that range, right?
Yep, you're right in the middle. And you notice it's open, but it's not crazy open, right? And it's also not closed. The other thing we're looking at is also look at centered It's not or it's okay? The thing you can feel with this too, if you're paying attention, you can put your hands behind your ears and think everything behind your ears is your back vowel. You can kind of feel that. Everything from here down is your back vowel. So there's the o, ooh. And you can kind of feel that if you actually put your hands behind your ears. You can start to kind of feel that there's a separation in where you're feeling the vowel. Or you can go to the brighter one that we were talking about. E. And so E and oo are our closed vowels. Ah and are our open vowels. So comparable with the brighter vowels, is your centered vowel.
Cool.
Okay, but that being said, is a centered vowel. However, is going to give you even better results with stabilizing everything.
So earlier you were kind of talking about how in some genres you want kind of this darker, deeper tone, and in some genres you want this brighter sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that created? I mean, I know you were saying that a lot of that has to do with the back vowel, but what else plays into that?
It's both, but it's interesting because as you learn how to mess around with your vocal acoustics, you can keep the in the back to make sure that everything is feeling comfortable. And you guys, I'm not going into why these vowels stabilize or destabilize right now, okay? Let's just go with the fact that a center vowel stabilizes the balance in the vocal cords between the air and the muscle. It just helps it, okay? Because there's a whole thing that's more science and physics that goes into why that actually happens, and maybe we'll get into that. But the in the back will help keep everything balanced. So if we can remember to or learn how to figure out how to in the back, then if I keep my here, I can start to play with all those things in the front and change all the different vowels and acoustics in the front to give me a brighter or darker tone. And this is more for our pop singers, right? Because we're going to have more open sounds and more openness in the back if we're singing classical music in some musical theater. Did that answer your question?
Right. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds like you want to, unless you're going for a very specific sound, you want to keep the back vowel centered and the front vowel centered.
Yes.
Like center.
Yes. Center is always great.
That seems like that's is what you're saying is optimal.
That's optimal, and that's actually going to give you a true sound of what your speaking voice sounds like in singing. So like your speaking voice will sound like your singing voice, vice versa. Okay, we're not demonizing other vowels. Remember that, not demonizing it. Okay, and this is definitely more for our pop genres, our popular music genres, than our classical and our musical theater. But unless it's contemporary musical theater, because it's more pop.
But even then, so wouldn't you want moments where you have that sound? But you gotta if you're looking for stability.
That's just like I said, that's just baking the cake. That's getting everything optimal. And then from there, we can start to branch out and play with the different acoustics to get different sounds and styles that we're looking for. And the thing is, though, is if you can come from optimal, if you can come from this place with the centered vowel and our air and muscle are already balanced with our nice even airflow and chord and vocal cord connection and adduction, then from there, we're coming from that stable place. We're coming from a safe place to sing. And then we can branch out and start to play with other sounds. So that's all I'm saying. The cool thing about doing this, it actually doesn't hurt your style. It doesn't hurt your ability to do all different kinds of music. If you have a very specific sound, it's not going to hurt that sound. It's not going to change you. What it's going to do is it's going to open up your possibility in your voice to do more. And it's going to actually allow you to have even better style that's more effective.
Right. So it's just a great foundation to play off of.
Yeah. And then obviously you can tune your acoustics to be brighter or darker sounding, which is really fun. So we're looking for that centered vowel to give us our best color, or like a more the truest color of our just natural voice. Okay. That's the most stable place for the vocal folds, so that they're just feeling super balanced. It just helps with that air and muscle balance. And it's, you know, this is also the reason why sometimes singers modify vowels when they're singing in different ranges. They'll actually they won't sing a true E on the top, they'll sing an E and they'll open it up, right? So you might, if you start to watch singers' mouths, you might see that modification. And the thing I want to challenge everybody to do is actually start listening to singers where you're tuning into the vowels and what the vowels actually sound like. Because that could be a really cool exercise for you guys to just start to pay attention to that. Or you can watch live videos, not pre-recorded music videos that are professionally produced, but live videos of some of your favorite singers and watch how they're shaping things. It's very interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So with that, do we have anything else before you want to get into the exercises?
Just keep in mind that once your voice is balanced between your air and your muscle, and we've got optimal balanced with the vowel, the centered vowel, then we can just play, and it gets really fun.
Sweet. All right. And with that, let's
move on to some little tips and exercises we can do. Okay, so we just got done talking about the front vowel and the back vowel and how we want everything to be centered to be optimal. We walked through all the different types of vowels, open to closed. So now let's just focus on finding that optimal vowel for popular singing. And really, we were saying that's if you can say mud, gum. The funny thing is, people can actually say an vowel and slightly change it. You can have, like we were talking about the indie vowel, the to e, and having the diphthong where you have two vowel sounds, I, and all of a sudden it's not So we're talking about a pure vowel. It's almost kind of dumb sounding, right? So think of a word, lets you get to that centered vowel. So mud, gum, And a really good thing that you could do is actually record yourself doing the vowel and play it back, because surprisingly, you might have a little bit of an A in it. You might have an E in it and it's a little bit brighter. Maybe it's really dark. Oh, has a little O in it, or maybe again the E, or A. Just kind of, so there's so many different tweaks we can make to the So we want to get to just that nice centered place. So now let's talk about how we can get to the back vowel and the front vowel and kind of think of it in those two different resonators where the sound can kind of be shaped. So if you go ahead and put your hands right behind your earlobes, this is a cool trick because just consider this to be like the divider. It's like a room divider, okay? So everything behind your ears, underneath your hands, is your back vowel. Everything in front of your hands, in your mouth, is your front vowel. There you go. So let's leave it there. The fun thing about this is that we can really tweak this at this point. So check this out. So if I do in the back and in the front. So here's the back vowel, and then the front, They all sound the same, all the way through. Now the fun thing is I can keep the back vowel, and then put E in the front. So if I say, behind my ears, E, E. It sounds like E, but it's got a really rich tone to it. It's full. Versus if I put E in the back and E in the front, E, E, in the back, E, E, E. You can hear how that changes it so much. It opens everything up in the back so that we can stabilize the vocal cords and it feels comfortable through most of the range. So that's why we want to start to get that centered vowel. So even if we say other words, we have other vowels. We can do the same thing with A. If I put A in the back, A. In the back and A in the front. A. It's such a difference. So it's that idea of starting to be aware that we have these these two cool chambers that we can shape vowel sounds in. Not just one, but two. And if you start to think of it that way and you start to be able to feel yourself to be able to adjust those two things, that's really, really cool. So another really great way to think about this, instead of having to overthink about back vowel, front vowel, again, is just to keep everything centered. One of my favorite ways this has ever been explained that just keeps it so simple is think about a zombie. Like a literal zombie, okay? If you would see a zombie talk, their jaw would just go, blah, 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 blah. So when you're singing your song, if you can kind of give me that zombie vowel and keep everything centered, it's going to give you the that you need, that centered feeling. And so these are just some things to start thinking about and considering. You could take that zombie vowel on the song, and it's going to sound super weird to you at first because it's not a finished sound, but it'll get everything to just kind of come together for you. So if you sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, instead of going Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and over-articulating everything, we're going to go Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and kind of zombie vowel it through there to just start to get the vowel centered, okay? So that's another way you can start thinking about it. But in the meantime, start to just be aware of how you're shaping vowels. We want to, remember, we want to get to optimal, and then we can tweak and style and play with it, okay? So let's just get to that place first. Let's find home base, and then we can go from there.
We hope you guys are enjoying the Fundamentals of Singing video series here on YouTube. If you guys want more free resources on how we help our artists here at InvictiVox, please check out the InvictiVox Radio podcast on YouTube or any major podcast platform.